Hey there, everyone, and we are live. So good to see you. Thank you for showing up every day for my 4:30 market wrap, whatever you want to call it. I'm Mitch Goldberg with Client First Strategy. Welcome to a late edition of Be the Boss of Your Money. Another day is another day that the stock market gets absolutely trashed. It's becoming an everyday occurrence. Today, the Dow is down over 6%. By the way, the Dow, that is an index. As you know, you can't invest directly in an index, but you could invest in a security that tracks or mimics an index. Just have to get that disclosure out of the way. So thank you all for tuning in. This live stream is all about personal finance, investing, and lately it seems about the market plunging to new lows. It's just one step forward, two steps back, sometimes three steps back. So we're going to get into this stuff. But first, let us roll that introduction. I have my screen over here, and I must get the introduction because all right, we are back. Just going to get one more thing in here. Okay, here we go. Stock market gets crashed. Well, if you are looking for perspective, if you are looking for actionable ideas and you really know what's going on because you're wondering what the heck it is that you should be doing right now. You're wondering, should I just sell everything? Should I buy something? And your mind changes from moment to moment. As soon as the market rallies, people want to buy something. As soon as it goes to a new low, people have buyer's remorse. And it's nonstop. It's just the way it is. I'm going to roll this up a little bit, okay? Here we go. And I'm getting real close. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Should have had that done before. So people want to know what the heck it is that they should do. My screen over there that I could monitor myself is over here. So you're looking for perspective. You want to know what to do, and you want to know what to think of this and what's going on. 2 days ago, I made a worst case scenario presentation. It was really grim. Possibly half the nation becoming infected with coronavirus. 80% of the population would be okay. 5% would require hospitalization, and maybe 1 to 2% could die. 1 to 2% of 150 million people, you're talking 1.5 million to 3 million. Okay, so here we go. We don't want to go into that dark place because it's not, to me, the most likely scenario. It's a worst case scenario. But I think when people are nervous and people are getting overly excited, they start to go into a dark place and they start to extrapolate. What's going to come next? This has got to be worse. This has got to be bad. You know, what if things go better than you expect? What if things are okay? By the way, if you have a question that you'd like to ask me, hit me up in the comments. Welcome to all of you. If you're watching this during the replay, I'd like to welcome you as well. Okay. I've got my new Wall Street background behind me. I hope you like it. Nothing screams financial advisor more than a Wall Street background. All right. So with the Dow and the major averages hitting new lows during this cycle, basically the Trump returns since Trump's inauguration, January 20th of 2017, the gains are all gone. The gains have been completely repealed. The market's still up from when he won the election, but from the time he's been president, all of those gains are gone, and it happened in record time in 3 weeks. When I take a look at individual stock names and I see where they were a few weeks ago and where they are now, it truly is stunning. It boggles the mind. So what you want to know is it too late to sell? Is it too early to do some buying? That's really a matter of personal finance. It depends on your situation. So I'll look at it like this. If you have cash that you need over the near term, and that money is actually invested in the stock market, then you may be in a position where you can't afford to take any more losses, and you have to sell just to raise that amount of cash. This is why we always say in financial services, you hear all my financial advisor fellow peeps out there say the same thing. Based on your age, your risk tolerance, your time horizon, that would determine your asset allocation between how much you have in readily available cash, and then fixed income, and then stocks. Hopefully you have the cash part set already, so you don't have to start selling stocks into a down market. Because if you do that, you have to sell more shares to raise the same amount of money that you still need. Let's move on. Let's talk about the big stories of the day. The first thing that hits me is what's going on with Boeing. Now, everyone knows, you may know, Boeing is one of two of the biggest airliner manufacturers in the world, Boeing in the United States and Airbus in Europe. Boeing is actually asking for about a $60 billion rescue package from the government. Now, $60 billion is mind-boggling. Now, Boeing could cut costs and they could go into self-preservation mode. But what they're really trying to do is they're trying to pay their suppliers, because Boeing knows if they let their suppliers fail, then their whole supply chain is gone. You need your supplies. So it's really an entire industry that would go away if Boeing can't save its suppliers. Not to mention the airline stocks, which have been absolutely crushed. It's kind of a shame that after all of the stock buybacks, trillions and trillions of dollars over the last 10 years, that it's all for naught. I wrote a piece about this for CNBC. One of the nice things that I get to do is I get to write articles that are published on CNBC.com. And I wrote about buybacks that would make you mad. And ultimately, the point of it is, instead of spending all that money on buybacks and taking on debt for buybacks, how about saving some of that money for a rainy day, just like the rest of us, like you and I do, as a matter of personal finance? Money down the drain is how I look at it. As far as giving companies money after the buybacks, well, they're going to have to get it, because we can't let the entire economy fall into the abyss because we want to stand on ceremony and make a point. It is what it is. Secretary Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, is doing everything he can to keep the economy from plummeting into a deep recession. I think it's fair to say that we all expect a recession. Now it's a matter of how deep and how quickly we can get out of it. There are a number of good things going on, though. There are 3 drug trials going on, including one by a company called Regeneron, which helped come up with drugs to fight Ebola. But they have to go through clinical trials, because it's one thing, you just say, hey, this is an emergency, let's just get the drug trial going. But it takes time to see what the possible side effects are from these drugs. You never know. Maybe these drugs will only be given to people who are past their childbearing years, as to avoid other problems. Okay. New drugs, there's a risk to these, especially when you have such a new disease going around. So that is a good thing, though, that we have 3 drug trials going on. We have a number of companies working on vaccines. And in the meantime, we all need to practice social distancing. That goes for the young people. I kind of still consider myself young. Okay, I do. You might not, but I do. But you still have to social distance. You might feel well, but you're a carrier of the virus, and you can spread it to your parents, your grandparents, other family members, other people who don't deserve to catch the coronavirus because you're too busy going out and having a good time. What you're doing is actually a very selfish thing, and you have to stop and avoid people who really just can't handle getting catching this virus. Now, let's talk about investing. Okay, I've got my notes here. Okay, I've got my hot list of companies that I think are survivors out here. This is no longer a matter of, to me, buying investments or a stock, whatever it is, because you expect a snapback. Hey, this stock is down. I'm just going to jump in it and buy it, and it'll go right back up. I'll make a ton of money, and I'll go buy a new car. No. That's not what this is about. This is about finding survivors, companies that could survive through this time, companies that have cash balances, strong balance sheets that can get through this very difficult time. Because when they do come out of it, they'll be the last person standing, and those are the companies that investors will migrate to when this passes. And this will pass. If I didn't think that this coronavirus disaster and which so far looks like a horrible recession coming, I would tell you I don't believe we're ever going to get out of this. I'd find something else to do. We'll get through this. We've gotten through other things, and every time there's a disaster, it's insurmountable until we get through it, and then we face the next disaster that's insurmountable. We're going to learn as a nation. We're going to learn so much about how to handle this. We're going to be so much better as a society going forward because we've become battle hardened. Okay, we're learning a lot from this. Hey, listen, this is not a lesson that anyone wants to learn, but we're going to get through this. I want to keep up a positive attitude. You need to keep up a positive attitude. And one of the ways you can do that is to do things that you have control over. You don't have control over so many things. So many parts of our daily lives have gone out the window. So do the things that you can control. You can control your hand washing, your hand sanitizer, how much you put that stuff on and do your thing there. But you can control some things about your personal finances too. You can check your credit score and see what you need to do to improve it. That will do a lot more for you long term than staring at your computer screen at the stock market all day, trying to decide if you should do something or not. Because the fact is, most of you don't need to do anything. If you're investing in a 401k plan every month, this is good for you. You're getting bargains. Keep doing it. This isn't a disaster for everybody as far as the stock market goes. If you're already retired or close to retirement, well, I hate to live in a world of you should have, could have, but you should have money set aside. You should change your asset allocation to a more conservative posture. And you just keep doing what you're doing. You know that stocks that you have are for the long term, and you'll get through this. If you're in, I would say the big difference between being in an exchange traded fund or a mutual fund versus individual stocks. The thing with individual stocks is if you look at from the year 2000, a WorldCom, okay, for example, there was a fraud at the company, or a Lucent, which is now part of Alcatel, which used to be over $100 a share. I think maybe it's $1 or something. The point is, certain stocks never recover. But when you're part of an exchange traded fund, they have a way of regenerating themselves because they can eventually kick out the losers and replace them with better, stronger companies. So speaking of that, if you are in individual stocks, this is your opportunity to upgrade on the downgrade. I spoke about this yesterday. You've got a stock you bought. It looked like a great one. It turns out it's not so great. Not because it's down, because every stock is down. Almost every stock is down. But if you bought a company that is, it's second tier, second rate company, it's not really what you would consider in your own mind a blue chip, you can get rid of that stock. Forget the fact for a moment that it's down and you just hate taking a loss. Look at the dollar amount. You put $30,000 in a stock. It's worth $15,000 in a stock now. It's $15,000 that you could now go out and upgrade into a better company. I'm not saying take the money out of the market. I'm saying upgrade, keeping that money in the market. This is not blanket advice for everybody. I'm just saying for somebody who's interested in remaining invested with the particular funds that we're talking about. So you need to upgrade your portfolio because you want to be in the companies that survive, because these will be the companies I think that thrive when we come out to the other side of this. Okay. Now, there's no such thing as a flat market. I think we can tell. How long have we been live so far? Coming up to about 15 minutes. There's no such thing as a flat market. We either have a big up market or a big down market. Some people blame the computers, the algorithmic trading. That's part of it. I think it's part of it for sure. But the market's going through a process called price discovery. Price discovery was great from the middle of 2019 to the first 6 weeks of 2020. And now you see how it works on the other side. Okay. When I was taking profits in stocks over the last 6 months of 2019 going into 2020, I was consistently wrong, because every time you sold something, it went up. The market went up, and you felt like the market was going up without you, and it didn't stop. But patience eventually made me right, could make you right. And now, every time and I said yesterday and the day before, I have started to become a buyer of certain securities. Am I wrong so far? You bet I'm wrong. You have to be comfortable knowing that a stock or an exchange traded fund that invests in stocks, you have to be comfortable understanding that it could drop $5 or $10 or $15 or $20 the next day. And if you can't handle that, then you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to do anything. You can just sit and wait. Or you could buy a little bit. It goes down, buy a little more. If it doesn't go down, you don't buy a little more. Not a bad problem to have. But what I think is going to make this work for me, and I'm doing this for my clients. So anything I'm doing in client accounts. I'm being patient. That's what I'm doing. Because you can't control so many things right now. And it's nice to have the feeling that we live in a world where our own little world is under control. It never really was. We just had the illusion of control. It doesn't mean that all hope is lost. There are still things you can control. And I think when you start to find the things that you can control, you're going to start feeling better about things, and you'll be able to have a positive outlook for the future. If you don't have a positive outlook for the future, your personal finance, your retirement, your financial goals, these go out the window. You don't want that. You don't want to make hasty decisions that will have long-term negative ramifications. I had an uncle who in 1987, his mantra to me was he was selling every stock he had while he had something left. And he waited, and he waited more. He waited for a good time to get back in, because there was, we were never out of the crash of 87. There was still a problem. There was still another shoe to drop. The economy was still weak. And you know what? For the rest of his life, he regretted it. Okay. Don't underestimate ingenuity. The people at these great American companies are working their butts off to come up with a better mousetrap, to get through this, to protect the companies. This, Bill, I think it's Bill Mason, head of this Legg Mason Fund Value Trust, Bill Mason. Okay, he is has one of the best asset management investing track records ever in the history of the stock market. And he said today on CNBC that what's going on right now in the market is that this is the opportunity of a lifetime for him to go out and buy the stocks that he wants to buy. Not all hope is lost. I can't tell you how bad the coronavirus gets. I wish I could, and I wish I could just make it all go away. We all do. But this is about personal finance. And I want to make sure that you are taking control of your personal finances and doing the things with your investments that you could control. For some of you, it's just sitting pat and doing nothing. For some of you, it's maybe selling something that no longer works for you and upgrading on the downgrade that we just spoke about. And some of you, you're just starting out and you want to get started, this is your opportunity. Fortunes are made investing in bad times. An old expression, when there's blood in the street, be a buyer. And based on the, not necessarily just based on the major averages being down anywhere from, 26, 28% from their highs. Because if you think about it, that's a bear market. And bear markets seem like they never end. That's why they're so horrible to go through. But we've seen much worse than this. But on an individual stock by stock basis, I've seen a lot of stocks that are good quality companies that have gotten literally obliterated, because sometimes people aren't just selling what they want to sell, they're selling what they could sell. I want to thank you for watching. I'm going to check my social media. And if you don't want to stick around for this part, that's okay. But I want to see if anybody's out there. And I always say I wish I had this stuff open before I jumped into this. Okay. But I'm going to be, we're looking at my posts right here. We've got a few people out there. Thank you very much. So let's see some of in the comments section. Okay. Jay, thank you. Brilliant guy. Hey, man, thank you very much. Yes. Bill Miller. Thank you for correcting me. Bill Miller of Legg Mason, not Bill Mason. When you're doing this on live, it's amazing how your mind can sometimes turn to mush. You're like, duh, what do I say? What do I say? Okay. It's not as easy as it looks. Hey, Chuck, thank you very much. Good advice. Well presented. Kudos. Chuck Failure. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's a financial advisor. Also, we became friends on LinkedIn. Anthony, thank you so much. Anthony Ruffalo, my former Long Islander, I think now in South Carolina. Hey, Mitch, keep up the great work. Thank you, my man. I certainly will. And you too, by the way. You just have been putting out such amazing educational content. Same with Joe and Keith and Sid and our whole group of financial advisors on LinkedIn. It's like we've got this great little club. And we're just putting out such great educational content. And we're supporting the heck out of each other. I love it. Okay, what do you think of guys who rely on technicals, floors, and resistance lines? Relying on the technicals, bottoms, charts, etc. I think they help with your next step. I think guys who are relying on that it's fine to do. It works for them, but it works for them until it doesn't work for them. But everybody has their strategy that they have to choose. I think right now, if you go by fundamentals, you're in nowhere land, because nobody knows what the fundamentals are going to be. So many publicly traded companies, over 100 in the S&P 500, have withdrawn any semblance of forecast. They said, we have no idea what's going to happen, and we're expecting to see a lot of companies go bankrupt. A lot of companies could disappear. So it's tough to say. So I think right now, relying on technicals, I guess if it makes somebody feel better, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it can help. And I'm doing a bit of that myself, but mostly I'm buying what I think are great companies that are really cheap. But I'm saying to myself, I don't care if they go any lower. If they do, I'll buy a little bit more, because I'm not buying so much that it's going to kill me if they keep going down. It's not going to destroy my client's future. We're buying a little more and a little more because they're great companies. And I'm confident that when we come out of this, we'll be in the companies that we need to be in. And then we'll have another rally that goes on for another good long time. And then we'll go through this panic again. That's the market. Okay, and that's why we rebalance. Remember, we will talk about rebalancing. So great question. Thank you very much. Anthony feels the market is super oversold right now. I think it's tough to see in a live video if the market is oversold or not, because I don't want my compliance peeps to come out and say, no, you can't say that. I see a lot of really good values that I personally feel are good values. How about that? Kind of a wimpy answer, but you know what I mean. Okay, and we've got a couple of other people out here. Thank you, James, Australia. That's so cool that James and I are kind of LinkedIn friends. He's in Australia. I'm here. We're both financial advisors. It's really cool. Alexander, Sid, Thies. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. And we're going to just take a quick look on Facebook. I'm getting a couple of shout outs and messages from people who've really been supportive. Hey, Marilyn, thank you so much. What stocks are you buying? You know what? Reach me or we'll talk directly, but it's tough to really give individual stock names in the video and the live feed. It's kind of like a forbidden thing in my industry. I really appreciate you asking, and I'll gladly tell you those. But let's save that for a phone call or an email. And I know you have my email because you and I have been connected for a very long time, and a few other people out there. And Fred. Hi, Mitchell Goldberg. Okay. Hi, Fred. Thank you very much. And a couple other people out there, and that's about it. I can't get to everything because I don't want to look at my phone while I'm talking to you, but I will get back to all of you in the comments and the shout outs, the reactions and all that. So I'm going to end this presentation. Hang in there, folks. Things will get better. We may have to go through much tougher times. I wish I could do something about that, but we will get through this. Call a friend. Next time you go shopping, pick up some extra stuff for somebody who needs it. Drop it off at their house. Let's all support each other. Patronize your local businesses. Give one of your local businesses a nice Google rating or whatever. There's so many things we could do to make this world a better place, to make this more palatable. And I know you're all doing it, and thank you very much. All right. I'll see you soon.